we have Senator McCain ready to go, and it's always great. John, it's always great to have you on the air. Welcome back.
Well, thanks, Barry. I'd like to be on, not with you, but with Michelle. Hello, Michelle.
Everybody understands.
Thank you.
I don't want to be the one to point it out, but, that was a sexist statement, so let's...
I think it was just the truth.
Well, listen, let me just ask you right off the bat here. Bacchus has got the thing out today, and let me just, where do you want to start with this? President Obama was on 60 Minutes Sunday night, and his quote was, I'll get you this exact quote. He said that there would be reforms will stop insurance premiums from going up. I don't even know where to start with this.
You don't know where to start. The Wall Street Journal had an excellent editorial about one of his statements this morning as well. Look, there's also no real medical malpractice reform. If he wants to do demonstration projects in various parts of the country on malpractice reform, then let's do demonstration projects on the government option and do demonstration projects on all of the other provisions of this radical change in the way health care is administered in America. Look, we want reform. We want to fix it. But this is still going to be a government takeover. A co-op, you can do a co-op now, Barry, but the kind of co-op they're talking about is they're just giving the government option a different name.
There's a story out today at Investors Business Daily. They've conducted their own study. They went to medical doctors, thousands of them all over the United States, and they asked them a very simple question. If Obamacare comes in, what will you think? What will be your reaction? This is the latest. 45% of the doctors surveyed are saying that they would either curtail their practice to some extent. Some of the other ones are saying they might just go ahead and retire.
Well, I can understand that. And by the way, the AMA, who sold out completely, represents some 18 or 19% of doctors in America. Okay, so listen to what the Mayo Clinic has to say and others before we buy into this AMA business. But the point, the Wall Street Journal says that the president was saying that, and I quote, that buying insurance on your own costs you 3 times as much as the coverage you got from your employer. The facts are exactly the opposite. And it's obvious why. If you get free health care, obviously, then you're going to use it as if it's free. If you're paying for it, then obviously you're a lot more careful. Ronald Reagan used to say, I've heard you quote him, Barry, nobody ever washed a rental car. So, again, the fact is that if you're responsible for your own health insurance, you pay a lot more. And what I worry about, then you are far more careful about how that money is spent. And finally, look, who's this going to hurt? It's going to hurt small business people. It's going to hurt people who are self-employed, and those are the people that are going to be hurt by this plan that Senator Baucus has. Now, I'll admit it's an improvement over what went through the House of Representatives, but it still is, in my view, totally unacceptable. And the American people have figured it out. And you can go on Letterman, you can go on all the network shows, you can do whatever you want. But I think the American people have figured it out.
Are they going to be able today, meaning Democrats, are they going to be able to do this without one single Republican, or will some Republicans cave in?
I don't know the answer to that. But if they got a Republican support, I don't see how it could be more than 1 or 2 in its present form. Brief anecdote. I was in Miami, the Palmetto Hospital. I talked to an orthopedic surgeon there. I said, how's your malpractice insurance premiums? He said, I gave up that insurance a long time ago. He said, I could never afford it.
A lot of them go naked.
So here we have doctors and practitioners all over America who are unable to insure themselves against finding themselves in court and going broke. I mean, isn't that a compelling argument to have medical malpractice reform? And by the way, the president wants to have demonstration projects. There's a demonstration project going on. It's called Texas, where they implemented medical malpractice reform, and guess what? Costs have gone down.
And just your opinion on this, it's kind of off the cuff, but, this whole thing it's going to require every American to buy insurance or there'll be a big fine. You think, is that constitutional, do you think? I mean, just off the cuff.
Off the cuff, I don't think it's, from a pure sense, I don't think it's constitutional. I think that the fact is that it would not, that's something that probably might be challenged over time, but I'm not sure would ever achieve much. I think the important thing is that we've lost sight of what we really need to do and have insurance affordable and available for all Americans. I don't think every American should be required to have a college degree, but I want to make a college education affordable and available to all Americans. There's a difference there.
Well, with the Democrats obviously in charge, what is your feeling? What's the best, those of us who oppose this thing, what's the best we can expect?
If Americans keep doing what they're doing, the tea parties, the demonstrations, the emails, the letters, the virtual peaceful revolution that's been going on out there, I think we can stop it. I think that the American people have risen up, and I think they've changed the terrain here in a very dramatic fashion. I think that before this last spring, I think that I would have predicted this thing was just going to go through, and they were going to pick up a few Republicans, and it was going to be done. Now I'm not so sure. I think they still might be able to do it. With this 51 vote thing, which I know you've explained to the listeners, but they take a terrible political risk if they just ram something through without any shred of bipartisanship.
So in the bottom line, the time for bickering is not quite yet over.
Well, it was the president who never came forward with a plan of his own. The president still hasn't told us how he's going to make sure that there are automatic spending cuts if this plan costs money. Where are those spending cuts going to be? Overall, is it going to be defense? Is it going to be what's it going to be? So, anyway, it would still be nice to see a president administration proposal, which we have not seen yet, except to say that their opponents of the plans that are going through the House and Senate are the opponents are lying, and that's what he said first. And by the way, the Senate acted yesterday, as you might see, to try to put in a provision that an illegal immigrant would have to prove citizenship. A person would have to prove citizenship in order to be eligible. That was not in before. And let me just mention one other. The committee that I'm in, we proposed an amendment that prohibited federal funding for abortion, okay? And that's the Hyde Amendment, as you know. We've never had federal funding for abortion. The Democrats beat that back. So what does that mean? See my point?
Yes. All right.
Well, I got to jump in here. This is really bothering me. What does it mean when the president says we're gonna cut out $600 billion or so of waste and fraud and abuse in the Medicare system? But I want you all to be confident that you should sign up for essentially a nationwide Medicare system because we've done so well running it this far, right?
Which is 31 or 34 trillion dollars in arrears. And Medicare is going to go broke in 7 years. And if we can eliminate this fraud and abuse and waste, and find me a person who is opposed to eliminating it, then why don't we start today?
Well, why don't
we start today? Work with that first.
Pass a law? Do we have to pass a law to eliminate fraud that's taking place in Medicare?
Well, why don't we just say Medicare is the pilot project? I mean, there it is for everybody to see.
And as I say, in 7 years, according to the Medicare trustees, it's going to go broke. Now, we're not going to do away with Medicare, okay? We are going to provide a safety net for our senior citizens. But the fact is it's approaching a crisis, and the fact is that if you want to adopt Medicare on a national basis, wouldn't that then contribute to X trillions of additional costs?
Well, logic would dictate. Logic would dictate, but the President of the United States goes on 60 Minutes and says we're going to save money.
Well, again, I would love to see how we do that. I would love to see us just. What about one simple step? Barry, right now there are certain states that their Medicaid programs cover hair transplants, plastic surgery, all kinds of additional benefits.
Transgendering.
Transgendering,
yeah,
really?
Which drive up the costs, okay, obviously, if you're going to cover all of those things. Well, there's some states that don't. So why can't, if I live in a state where the Medicaid is so expensive and all those are covered, why can't I go to another state and where the health insurance policies are required to have that kind of broad coverage? Why can't I go to another state and get the insurance that I want where those things are not mandates and where the cost of a health insurance policy might be a lot less?
Listen,
right now they're prohibited from doing that.
I know that your time is limited. I got to just ask you one other thing here to get off the health thing for a moment. And just a quick comment from you on Afghanistan. I thought of you the other day. I smiled. The president's generals are telling him the only way to turn this thing around in Afghanistan is that we got to have more people over there to do the job. And the Democrats, as I understand it, they just say, no, let's just train more Afghanis to do whatever we have to do. But once again, I'm going to call it the McCain plan. I mean, that's what we did in Iraq, and now the generals, not you, the generals are telling the president this.
Yeah, and two quick points. One is if you think it's only a buildup of Afghan troops, then look at in 2004 we supposedly had 208,000 Iraqi military trained, and they collapsed. They collapsed under the pressure of extremist attacks, and we had to go back, and we had to go to the Petraeus strategy, which is clear: operate with the Iraqi military, do the operations with them, live with them, have them trained up to the capability that they can fight themselves. Afghan soldiers are good fighters. We need a lot more of them, and we need to have joint operations with them, live with them, operate with them, and they will be able to defend themselves over time. In the meantime, we need many additional troops to carry out operations in an area where we are not winning, so therefore we are losing. Let me just add one point, Barry, if I could. Right now, I'm very worried because the president's spokesman, Mr. Gibbs, yesterday or the day before said it will be many, many weeks before he decides on troop levels. Now, could that be that he doesn't want to alienate the left-wing base as he is trying to get health care reform done? It doesn't take many weeks. Tomorrow, we could decide on how many troops are needed and tell the American people it's long and hard and tough. But remember that attacks in 9/11, those people were trained in Afghanistan. Okay? Afghanistan was the place where al-Qaeda, working with the Taliban, began with orchestrating their attacks on the United States of America. Are we going to allow Afghanistan to return to a base for attacks on the United States of America and our allies? It's long and hard and tough. We proved we can do it in Iraq. We can do it in Afghanistan. And there's a huge amount at stake here, my dear friend, and I'm very grieved that we have to do it.
It's always great to have you on the. I know you're on a tight schedule today. When you get back in town, come by and see us.
I'd be glad to. And thanks for all the good work you're doing, Barry. Michelle?
Thank you, Senator.